In the months after 9/11, the House and Senate convened joint hearings to produce this massive report titled The Joint Inquiry into Intelligence Community Activities Before and After the Terrorist Attacks of September 11, 2001. Facing stonewalling from the Bush administration and other issues, the joint inquiry was not exactly considered a rousing success.
I think the failure of that committee to be able to do a thorough investigation made the families and the country call for the creation of the 9/11 Commission.
One of those failures in the 2002 Joint Inquiry Report of 900 pages, 28 redacted pages, which stick out like a sore thumb. Potential sources of foreign support for the September 11th hijackers, classified by the Bush administration. What could be in those 28 pages? Former Senator Bob Graham was one of the co-chairs of the Joint Inquiry Report. He was upset when the Bush administration classified those 28 pages and when Congress went along with it, because, according to this letter from the chairs of the Senate Intelligence Committee, they feared releasing the information, quote, could adversely affect ongoing counterterrorism efforts.
One of the ways you fight terrorism is by shining sunshine on it and letting the people know who was involved in the terrorist activities. This has been just the opposite.
The report from the 9/11 Commission, published 2 years later in 2004, mentions this Saudi man, Omar al-Bayoumi, who was living in California and provided financial assistance to 2 of the hijackers. FBI counterterrorism documents obtained this year by Judicial Watch show in October 2001 the FBI believed al-Bayoumi was reportedly a Saudi intelligence agent. But al-Bayoumi denied any terror connections in an interview with Al Arabiya in 2003. The 9/11 families have many allies pushing for the release of the 28 pages, including former New Jersey Governor Tom Kean, a co-chair of the 9/11 Commission.
There's really no excuse for why the American people can't see it, just as there's no excuse why a number of parts of our work in the 9/11 Commission is still highly classified. There's no reason they should be.
Thank you.
They also have the support of North Carolina Republican Congressman Walter Jones.
After reading the report, there's nothing about national security. It's about relationships. It's about agencies within our own government and also relationships with foreign governments.
Today, the Saudi government gave CNN a statement in which the Saudi foreign minister said in response to the story, quote, "We have nothing to hide and we do not seek, nor do we need to be shielded. We believe that releasing the missing 28 pages will allow us to respond to any allegations in a clear and credible manner and remove any doubts about the kingdom's true role in the war against terrorism and its commitment to fight it." That letter was originally released 11 years ago. Why the 28 pages remain hidden from the public remains a mystery.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to tell you that we're very grateful that you would attend this press conference today.
There are 3 basic reasons for our request here. First is that transparency is a good aspect of democracy, and that as Walter indicated, having an informed public from the beginning of our government has always been a major priority and an asset of democracy. And we believe that transparency in this case will not only be the right thing to do, but secondly, it will provide justice for a lot of the families, for all of the families who are affected directly. We all suffered a deep and personal, profound loss, but these families, who will speak later on at this conference, will speak to the true pain that they feel each and every day. And they are deserving of the truth, just as the American people are. And thirdly, I think after reading the 28 pages, and the pages speak for themselves, I think that members of Congress and American citizens everywhere will be better informed in terms of our national security posture and the threats that are out there. I think they will be better informed, more thoughtful, more comprehensive, and we will understand more fully the nature of the threat that's out there. And I think that again is one more reason to make sure that these reports are made public. One important point I want to emphasize is that we frequently see reports. I'm in the process of reading a 6,700-page report on the CIA enhanced interrogation process. And it is typical to see a redaction where a couple lines or a name of a country, name of a CIA agent might be deleted for the purpose of protecting that individual. But in this case, this report, this joint report, 28 pages were excised, a whole section of it. That's extraordinary. And it points to the need for disclosing that information in order to make sure that that report is fully understood. I think Walter and I and the senator agree that this is very important information to have out there, and that we jointly feel, as well as Representative Massey, that this presents no risk to sources or individuals in terms of disclosing this for our intelligence apparatus. We feel that, on the other hand, this will make us stronger, make our country stronger and better prepared and better informed if we disclose this information as we rightly should.
The families have suffered long enough. The American people have been denied the truth long enough. It is time for the truth to come out. It is time for the truth to come out.
But first, a little background. After 9/11, it was clear that the Congress was going to be called upon to conduct some form of an inquiry as to what happened. The decision by the leadership was to combine the intelligence committees of the House and the Senate into a single body. For the first time in the history of the Congress that had occurred, for purposes of carrying out this inquiry. The inquiry took the year of 2002. It included interviewing hundreds of witnesses, tens of thousands of pages of documentation, leading up to an over 800-page report, which was submitted in December of 2002. Some 6 months later, the declassified version emerged, and we were shocked to see that an important chapter in the report had not been redacted. That is, as Congressman Lynch and Congressman Jones said, a word or a phrase here or there, but an entire chapter. Now, since that chapter continues to be classified, none of us can talk about it in public. But I think it's fair to say that it is a central chapter in terms of understanding who was the support network that allowed 9/11 to occur. When we saw that this chapter had been eliminated, there was an immediate outcry. Senator Dick Shelby, Republican from Alabama, who had been the chair and was at that time the vice chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, and I issued a statement to the effect that we were intimately familiar with that chapter. We considered it to have no adverse effect on national security, that it was important to the overall understanding of 9/11, and it should be released. We have subsequently been joined in that by others who were involved, including the chairman of the House Committee, Porter Goss, who wishes that he could have been here today to participate as well. And subsequently, the Citizen 9/11 Commission's two co-chairs, Lee Hamilton and Tom Kean, have also advocated that these 28 pages be released. Shortly after the declassification process ended, a letter was prepared, signed by almost half of the membership of the United States Senate, bipartisan, including Senator Joe Biden of Delaware, Senator John Kerry of Massachusetts, and Senator Clinton of New York, all calling upon President Bush to release the 28 pages. What have been the consequences of this refusal
to release the pages. And let me say, while the 28 pages are maybe the most important and the most prominent, they are by no means the only example of where information that is important to understanding the full extent of 9/11 have also been withheld from the American people. So the comments I'm going to make are specifically about the 28 pages, but more generally about a pattern of cover-up that for 12 years has kept the American people from a full understanding of the most horrific attack against the United States in its history. The consequences, in my judgment, are three. One is a denial of the truth. A core question in 9/11 is, did these 19 people act alone, or did they have a network of support which facilitated their ability to carry out a very complex plot? No one who has looked closely at the facts, including the individuals that I just named, have come to a conclusion other than that it is highly improbable that the 19 people could have acted alone. Yet the official position of the United States government has been that they did act alone, and that there is no necessity for further inquiry into the question of whether there was a support network. The second issue is the issue of justice. Some 3,000 members of the families who were lost on 9/11 have been trying for years to get justice through our system for the losses that they have suffered. The position of the United States government has been to protect Saudi Arabia. At virtually every step of the judicial process, when the United States government was called upon to take a position, it has been a position adverse to the interest of United States citizens seeking justice and protective of the government which, in my judgment, was the most responsible for that network of support. The third consequence is the issue of national security. And frequently those who have defended non-disclosure have said this cannot be made available to the American people because it will be adverse to our national security. It will affect methods and sources of information or other information that is inappropriate to be made publicly known. As the two congressmen have just said, they both read the report, not 12 years ago as I participated in writing the report, but they have read it recently and have both come to the same conclusion that we did a dozen years ago, that there is no threat to national security in disclosure. I'm going to make the case today that there's a threat to national security by non-disclosure. I hope that they will soon be joined by a rising tide of other members of Congress who recognize the importance of this issue. And then finally, that the President of the United States will declare that he is going to adopt the Lincoln-esque standard of full disclosure and rely on the intelligence and judgment and patriotism of the American people to decide what the appropriate course of action should be. Thank you.
We're going to begin the press conference.
You know, I renewed my push for the release of these 28 pages this summer when we started talking in the national discussion about having a third war, ostensibly to prevent another 9/11. It occurred to me, I woke up one morning, look, we've basically had two wars to prevent the next 9/11, and we're talking about a third war. We need to get these 28 pages into the discussion, and that's what renewed my efforts to release these pages. It occurs to me that the page before the 28 pages is important. People want to know what are we referring to. And we can't say what's in those 28 pages, but we can talk about the first sentence on the page before those 28 pages. And it says, through its investigation, the Joint Inquiry developed information suggesting specific sources of foreign support for some of the September 11th hijackers while they were in the United States. I want to finish with a call to action. The president could release these 28 pages tomorrow. He could hold his press conference and say what we've said, that the families deserve to know and that this is important to our national security and the national policy debate on foreign policy to get this out. But the other way that we can bring pressure to bear is following Congressman Jones's leadership and Congressman Lynch's leadership, and that is to get other members of Congress to read these 28 pages. If you're watching this press conference and your congressman has not read those 28 pages, you need to ask him or her, why haven't you done it? Do you not have the time? Are you worried about what's in there? Would you please, ask them, would you please do this for me? Would you do this for the families? Would you do this for our foreign policy debate? Because what I think we found is that after other congressmen read these pages, they agree with us. It will not compromise our national security to release them. It will inform our foreign policy discussions, and I think it will help the families. And so I leave with that call to action. Please ask your congressman to go read these 28 pages and join us.
I've met with Tom Kean. I know Tom Kean. I've met with Lee Hamilton. Both gentlemen tell me there's no reason these 28 pages should not be turned over to the public. There is no security risk to our country if these 28 pages are turned over to our country. Then, Mr. President, when you tell me there's a security risk and that's the reason you're not making these public, Mr. President, I call you a liar. And my son's dead, and I don't know all the facts because, Mr. President, you're lying to me.
There is no reason that any of the senators that signed the letter when President Bush was in office should not be just as adamant today, if they're still in the Senate, to release this information. Because, again, this is about the families who have suffered so much. It's about an America who was attacked. And as far as I'm concerned, the Senate owes it to the families, and especially those senators up in the northeastern part of the United States of America and here in Virginia, where we had the Pentagon. They owe it to the families and the American people. Everyone else has spoken articulately well about why this should be done. And there is no excuse. There is no excuse. America will fail and fall if we don't uphold the truth on this issue and other issues. A republic will not stand without the truth, and that's all this is about.
You asked also whether or not the Saudis might be playing both sides, calling for disclosure, but yet behind the scenes asking for the information to remain classified. I could not see, if I was part of the Saudi royal family and government, I would not be calling for the disclosure of this information. Let's put it that way. So I guess. I suspect duplicity, let's put it that way.
This report came out when President Bush was President of the United States. His administration reviewed the report. He's the one that recommended that the 28 pages be classified. It was President Bush. Remember that.
Thank you very much for being here.